What do you think of if someone tells you she's a material girl? Well, here's one, me. Please don't get scared and run away, start packing your bag, because I'm not going to ask you for money, nor diamonds. Well, but materials I can touch, smell, and maybe feel a bit. I'm a material girl. I've been fascinated by materials since I was a kid. How I can smell the textures, the forms, and shapes. In the past 10 years, I've been in search with all different materials, with different material properties, that is responsiveness, and also the cleverness and smartness of it. I dream to work with the best scientists and engineers to create installations, artwork, and products. Metrology is one example how I worked with shape memory alloys and veneers to create programmable materials. So that's one of them. Climatology is how I can create new materials that allows the veneer to transform with moistures and heat, dance along with bird songs, and change colors when it feels like the temperature is changing. And maybe something like sundew. Inspired by plants, the cleverness of nature, using materials like crystals and also bamboo to create engineering structures. Well, while I'm trying really hard to create something similarly clever in this part of the world, ripping my brain off, actually, in another side of the world, there are people in the mountain villages that you don't need to involve scientists nor chemicals, but heritage innovation. I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication. Why these people in a mountain village can do such clever things, but we haven't realized that in the past 100 years. Do you know that laser cuttable cottons and also water-resistant fabrics can be found in Guizhou mountain villages in like 100 years ago? While scientists in the past 30, 40 years have been trying to create water-repellent fabrics that's possibly carcinogenic because of the nanoparticles being applied on top. That makes it sound really silly, doesn't it? Well, I feel like as a designer, it's my quest to actually venture out and to find how can we create the bridge between textiles innovations of what we've learned with technology nowadays and also heritage craft. So this is where the story's unfold begins. Heritage research initiative I started 3 years ago. This is a village in Guizhou, Jiaolishan, southern part of China. Well, in the 80s and 90s, because of globalization and industrialization, a lot of textiles craft being mimicked by machines. So there's a lot of low quality crafting to distribute in the market, leaving the villages with no work. This is what it is nowadays. Only 10% of the craft skills get passed to next generations. And a lot of weavers and batik specialists end up working in minefield and construction site. And I was questioning myself, is this the fate for heritage craft? I remember the very first time I was working in the villages. As a designer, I feel like I've got to be professional. So I started researching from libraries, books, internet, collecting sample swatches, start designing my weave warp, using the most precise method that I've learned from college, designing my warp plan, like what you see on the screen, research on the most innovative material I could think of, unconventional material like wires, electrical cables, and things that I thought villagers will be so excited to see because they've never worked with them before. Well, I sent them to the village. 6 weeks later, I thought they have started to prepare the warp and materials, but I was so wrong. there was nothing being done. They felt so alienated with the material I've sent down. And I felt very rejected by the villagers. They looked at me, and I looked at them, and we stared at each other for a good half an hour. We're like, okay. And then they said, like, we don't know what you're trying to do, Elaine. And I said, what do you mean you don't know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to just get on with it, you know. But then I just realized I can't treat them as if they were a factory. So then I'm trying to understand, with the mistake that I've made, what was the problem? And then I've realized, for complicated weave like this, actually, they work it out in their head. They've never seen a pick plan before. Nothing was done through math. Everything was done through practice. It's a practice-based tradition. So imagine, if they've got no one to pass the tradition on, it's going to be long gone. So I put my hat on, start weaving in the village, start to understand how they worked. I was trying to understand how to communicate and earn trust from the villagers. But before I do so, I need to get some funding to run the project. Because I really want to try to build an ecosystem to bridge different platforms with the villagers, so then the work can get out of the village and not end up in the museums or the tier 3 markets. So then I start to talk to different people, and people's like, okay, Elaine, if you want money from us, well, what's going to be the productivity rate? I was like, okay. Well, you know, how many people is going to employ? How much money do you need to run the hub? How scalable it is? And I was like, this is really irrelevant to my project, because I'm not even there yet, because I can't even communicate with them. So then that actually brought me to think, how can I earn trust from the villagers to start with? How do we have the same set of language to communicate and design? And then it led me to think, as a designer, how can I inform heritage in production? How can I include them in our modern community? And most importantly, how can I provide desired lifestyles for the younger generation of villagers, that they don't fleet off to work in chemical factories in Guizhou and Guangdong away from their families? So all these questions start to pop up. And then I was in search, and after visiting many villages, I found my craft engineers, the Pin sisters, and a dog. So there's a batik specialist and a weave specialist. They're the most innovative villagers I've ever met. The younger Miss Poon, she's worked in factories before, so she has really great mindset and understand why I'm there. And the other sister, on the other hand, had never worked with anyone before in her life. So it was a great learning curve for myself and for her to communicate. And the dog, the dog guards our textiles and protect them, which is great too. So together we form a team to look into the problems and the type of textiles traditionally that they make in the village, and also to look into the facilities that they have. For example, the dye vats, and also something like Oxbow that they use to rub textiles. It's a bit unconventional, not something that I was seeing in college in England. You know, they use a massive jaws Oxbow to rub the textile to make it shiny, to crush the fibers. So I have to learn all these skills and techniques and what they're available. And also, for example, how do we formulate our best wax so we can create the most beautiful batik? And also, what resources is available locally, like red beans. And they took the red bean out and said that's what they use. Like, oh, are we going to have like dessert? And they were like, oh, no, they're not for eating, they're for doing textiles. I was like, but they can't make dye, what can you do with it? Then I very soon realized, actually, the red bean is made, boiled down and made a paste to applied on this shiny textiles onto the cotton to create this water resistability. And actually they make this textiles for the daily jacket is very durable. And what they didn't realize is a laser cuttable cotton. Of course they wouldn't realize, because they've never seen a laser cutter before in their life, and they have no idea what it is. So when I've done that sample, show it to them, they're like, oh, it must have taken a long time with your hand to cut it with scissors. I'm like, no, and so I just have to show them video, and they were so fascinated, and they were like, and so I was so excited because I began to introduce some new techniques to them, and they also start to think how they can apply this laser cutting method with the embroideries to make templates and stuff together, to think of a new way of manufacturing system with a tradition and also digital way of making. And then the more the time I spent with them, I realized actually they're very creative. They're not just heritage craft makers, but they're also designers themselves. So this is one of the very first piece of textiles that we've create together. They have really great sensitive of skills in terms of when they paint the batik, and it creates this pattern. Because when I first received this textiles back in Hong Kong, I was like, I've not worked this pattern before. And then my assistant told me actually they've worked layers of batiks on top of the base print I provided. And when I looked at it, I just realized actually they're very sensitive in terms of scales that open a whole new chapter in terms of our investigations and journey. After working batik on traditional textiles, we also want to create extra dimension for the village themselves to create a niche product that they can do but no one else, because everywhere else in the world there are batik exist. So we decided to work on wood, on three-dimensional wood. So this is a bit of like the training examples that we've done. So with all the great samples I've collected from the village, then I realized, okay, this is something's not quite right, because I'm just talking to myself. I need to talk to people that get feedback, and to be more practical, because if I can't apply the textiles onto a product, then it remains as a sample. So then I started to map out who would I need to see, manufacturers and retailers, just to get feedback. So I took the samples out to international brands and asked them for feedback, and some of them say, oh, Elaine, this is like too thin, this is not wide enough, like you need to change like the way how you make things. So that was really, really useful, and soon we realized that the facilities that we have at home was not good enough. So we start to build facilities for the hub so they can work together as a team and more efficiently. Saves their time, and also they start to own more equipment, and they can work more hours if they wish. So this is our little system. So I ventured down to the village to train the two pioneers, and of course they need to have more angels to help them to work to produce as well. So we have to train them to provide them management skills so they can apprentice to work with them. But the most important thing is actually to show people how they do it. So we have the training center really open planned. So villagers can come in and out, have a little no-see, and they can have a practice if they want, so get a feel, because most of the villagers have never worked with anyone before. So it was quite interesting, because they were really frightened with the terminologies of employment. They were like, oh, don't like the sound of it. Does that mean I have to give up my daily chores, and does that mean I have to leave my family? Like, no, you do it at your own home at your own time. So we have a system to rotate this skill. So instead of employing like one person full-time, we employ 4 people part-time, so everyone can have a taste of it, and they don't feel they're so committed to the job. And when they feel like they're ready to commit, then they can work full-time. So this is the team at the moment. So a year ago, when we sort of had 3 ladies with 200 employment hours, we've escalated to 216,000 employment hours across 2 villages and 6 families. It's still a relatively low numbers, but I think it's a very exciting opportunity for myself to learn from them. These are the examples of textiles that we've made, which I'm very proud of the villagers, because the patterns is not just coming from myself, but also it's from everyone in the village. It has a soul. Oh, this is very exciting. This stool, everyone's like, what is this baby stool? The village celebrates everything with the stool. They use this stool for absolutely everything from birthday, funeral, celebration, banquet. It's so tiny, but that's the way how they celebrate, and they turn it upside down as like the weaving tools as well. So we really want to celebrate this quality and tell people that's how they do things in the village. So we start batiking the stool as a product. And these are products that are made with Chinese heritage pride. And I hope this is the way how we sort of learn from the past and build our future. Thank you. So before I finish my talk, just in case you think I'm making this story up, the people are actually real and the village is also real.
Few places remain where family is cherished and nature is respected, where resources are appreciated and used sustainably. The villages of Sandu in the Guizhou region of southern China maintain an authentic indigenous way of life, producing crafts using traditional techniques. They make woven fabric and handmade batik. The traditional garments are mainly traded within local markets. This is an ancient culture, proud and dignified, but a culture that is increasingly under threat from mass-produced alternatives to their craftwork. In 2013, the FABRICK LAB started a project called Unfold to sustain heritage textiles. Material designer Elaine Ng, founder of the FABRICK LAB, travelled to Guizhou village to research and document the way of life. Her aim was to help the people develop a method to use craft skills to maintain their livelihood. By adapting traditional designs to suit modern lifestyles and making the production process safer and more efficient, Elaine aimed to train them as craft pioneers. Pioneers who would subsequently train their peers as apprentices and together create new designs. Unfold is a heritage craft research initiative helping build an ecosystem to innovate traditional techniques, expanding villages' markets and rediscovering the pride of heritage craft.
那它不一样才美，就是它美，因为它不一样。它不是工业化的东西，不是完全是手工在做的，它有一些特别多的不确定性。就是正是因为它不确定，所以才美，才迷人。
Unfold develops a wide range of techniques with villagers, creating applications from fashion to homeware. Unfold guarantees fair trade and a transparent process. Join the Unfold mission and support a unique culture.